To discuss that further, let's bring in Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist, joining us from Bristol. Mr. Gosling, welcome to the program. Hamas says that it has never been an obstacle to reaching a ceasefire. That's in contrary to President Donald Trump's accusations. We have basically two realities here, the reality underground and the reality of the U.S. President Donald Trump. Your thoughts?
Well, it's not just Donald Trump, is it? It's the so-called reality in the entire Western press, which is talking about Hamas as a terrorist organisation. We've got this bizarre situation here in Britain where the Palestine Action, the non-violent group which has been trying to stop the genocide by closing down those who are supplying weapons to the Israelis, they have been proscribed, as Hamas, as a terrorist organisation supposedly, whereas the British government are also trying to recognise the state of Palestine, and they've just done so. So what is going on here is Hamas are being singled out, even though they are, from 2006, the elected government, the majority of Palestinian people in Gaza. So there is a complete hypocrisy at the heart of, it seems to me, of much of what we're hearing. So Hamas really has come to prominence since the turn of the century. Before that, the struggle for the previous 50 years or so was conducted by much more multi-faith and secular groups, such as Yasser Arafat and the Palestine Liberation Organization. But you see, this didn't suit the narrative being imposed by the Israelis and the United States and Britain and many international actors on the conflict in Palestine. What they wanted to do was to, and they've succeeded now pretty much, is to frame this as a Muslim versus Jewish conflict. Actually, the Zionists have hijacked much of the, certainly it's nothing to do with the original morality of Judaism, which it sticks to the Ten Commandments, as Islam does. So it's a kind of divide and rule tactic, it seems to me, to frame the opposition as Hamas. Now, the fact is, Hamas have been funded by the Israelis to a certain extent, and that's what they're trying to do, to frame this as a purely religious conflict, where actually it's not. And exactly the same is true for Northern Ireland, where I lived and I studied in the Irish Troubles. So there's lots of similarities between the two conflicts. Ireland was largely a secular conflict between different groups of people, but it was framed as a religious war. So you can see what they're trying to do, imposing these things, and it's absolutely right. Just as the Republicans in Northern Ireland were having to put up with the British Army attacks on them, deliberate army intelligence attacks, MI5 attacks on the Republican movement in Northern Ireland, when the same sort of thing has been going on, of course, over in Palestine. So what I'm trying to say here is that the Palestinians are the ones who are the victims, and they're being painted as terrorists. Actually, the real terrorists in this conflict are, of course, the Israelis, who are using, abusing and misusing all the weapons of war against civilian populations. Yes. And they're trying to frame the Palestinian population as if they are Hamas. Well, actually, why not? Because they elected Hamas in 2006, but this is a total abuse by a terrorist state terrorists in Tel Aviv.
Mr. Gosling, Hamas is urging Washington to stop providing political and military cover for Israel. Do you see any chance that U.S. is going to change course with its approach towards the matter of Palestine? Especially, can the public pressure in the U.S. society work on the administration of Donald Trump?
Well, look, sadly, no, I don't think so, because the United States is in the grip of this Christian Zionist fervour, which has got very little to do with Christ, much more to do with Zionism and settler colonialism and attempts to hijack these faiths. So it doesn't seem to me as if Trump, even if he wanted to, could do much about this. because the establishment is so set. I mean, many of the they say it openly. Many senators, many people who have been into, such as Paul Craig Roberts, for example, who've been in the U.S. government, say and explain that you cannot get anywhere near power in the United States unless you are pro-Israel. In fact, we have a very similar thing now going on here in the UK. So the Israeli intelligence services, in collaboration, it seems to me, with British and American intelligence, have for a long time been monitoring people's political views as they approach getting close to power. And if
right.
It looks like they are anti-Israel or pro-Palestine, so for example, very obvious in the previous government we had here, the Conservative government, was Alan Duncan. He's a Foreign Office minister who was sympathetic to Palestine. And he was just removed. He was bounced out. He was bullied out. So they keep a very close eye on what people's views are as they approach power. If you remember Max Kaiser on Russia Today, he even said the one thing he was told when he arrived at the BBC is you're not allowed to criticise Israel. And so if you want to know who's in power, just have a look at who you're not allowed to criticise. And that is Israel in Britain and the United States. And even people like myself have been pushed out of journalism because we're saying what the people say, which is the people in Britain and the United States and many other parts of the world, of course, really do support the Palestinians in this horrific genocide that is being perpetrated against them. In a way, as I said, mirroring the attempt to frame it as just a religious conflict. It's not a religious conflict.
Right.
It's a conflict between good and evil. That is to say, very bad people, wicked and evil people who want more power, and actually all of us, all the rest of humanity.
Nicely put. Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist, joining us from Bristol. Thank you.